Welcome to another Tech News Around the World, and with a whole new amazing sound effect. There it is. I think
What's that for?
we're gonna. I don't know how to use it yet, but you let me know if you have ideas. I'm thinking when we switch between topics, like okay, let's turn to fintech, let's turn to medtech, and
Okay,
now
let's experiment with it.
yes,
I
I
like
love it.
it.
You find the sound and then we find the application. That's
yes,
good.
This is just conditioning at this point.
yeah. It's a
Great.
Pavlovian response. That signal means time to move on to a new topic. That's what that is. Okay, turning to politics. We've got a whole bunch of headlines. We had a fun meeting over Saturday. Justin did a barn burner of a room about 12 hours ago on Israel and Palestine, and that was fantastic. He might join us here. He might be catching up on some much needed rest after that room, but he usually joins us in our other time zone. And wow, what truly inspired me to raise the game here and start bringing in. Maybe it's time to start bringing in some more guests. But part of that is, as I mentioned in his room, he got up to 2,000 folks in his room,
2,100.
and I made it a point to tell everyone in the room that this is a really important opportunity, that he's going to be working hard to invite in Congress members to interview. And when he's sending out those invites, it makes it much, 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 much easier to be taken seriously if he can say, yeah, I've got 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people coming to the room every time. It makes a huge difference. And I know that because I produce large conferences. And one of the questions the speakers always want to know is how many people are going to be listening. And so I told everyone in the audience, we have to vote with our feet and support this with our feet, because it's important content, and it will build a bridge between Clubhouse and Washington, D.C., where he's based geographically and professionally. And we all benefit if he can bring in even better and better and better guests. It's kind of a domino effect. Well, the same applies here as well, where this, due to one of the regular listeners in the room, is helping in a very fantastic way. And basically, we have a soft confirmation. We're just working out which day for Tim Berners-Lee, one of the co-creators of the internet itself, to join us this week sometime or next week. And I've been bringing in a couple friends lately, like we had Joel Hellerman from Sauna Labs, the education tech AI company, just doing some rehearsal interviews, basically, just to test it all out, with a live audience and see how that all works. But, I have a nice queue of notable tech celeb friends that we could loop in. But it also helps, just keep the audiences growing. And on that point, one of the top headlines about growing audiences, and it does seem to be starting to happen, is Clubhouse opened to the U.S., opened on Android, as everyone knows, last week for the U.S. in some capacity. And now they're saying, one of the headlines is it will open up to Japan and Russia and a few other countries starting immediately, and hopefully be global by next week. So that could very quickly double the size of the rooms potentially. And then that does make it easier to draw in better speakers to participate in rooms. And then when you have better speakers in the rooms double yet again. And next thing you know, you have a really nice thing going on. And so fingers crossed that that's the...
So statistic-wise, for last week, for the U.S. rooms, did you see a increase in numbers in general?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like 100 or?
Oh, you mean 100%?
No, 100 more. Absolute number.
In what room?
Your room, Tech News.
Yeah.
You're always looking at the room. Because we are usually on average around
It was a
300,
big
right?
uptake. It was about 50, Cheryl.
Yeah, about 50.
50, 60.
Last week went up about 50
So 10,
folks
15%.
per day. Yeah, per room. Yeah. So that should go with when India comes online, it'll be really.
It's also looking at it relatively. I think Tyler looks at it relatively.
Yeah, I'm not
look at it and yeah.
Yeah, I'm more concerned about Clubhouse generally more than this room, because that's more important ultimately. Generally across Clubhouse? Yeah, it was up about Yeah, maybe 20% last week across all the rooms, and especially lately, like over the weekend, it was quite busy this weekend in the rooms, which was great. Yeah.
What tool are you using now? Because ClubHub.site, the one you sent me, isn't working anymore.
Yeah, I have the pro account, so it's working for me because I use the paid version. I don't know if what the unpaid version is doing. That's for data, and then for actually moderating the room, the app that I use is called Club Deck. And Club Deck is where I play all of these fantastic audio files and whatnot. Yeah, that keeps it fun. But let's jump into the headlines now. As we're now 7 minutes into the hour, and there's, as usual, no shortage of headlines. I kind of touched on the first one, which is the Clubhouse announcement that it's going to be going international and open to the world by next week. Which kudos to them for doing that. And as the headline says, Clubhouse, which launched its Android app in beta in the US last week, to expand the app to Japan, Brazil, and Russia on Tuesday, and globally by Friday. And so kudos to the team there for getting Android out the door so the rest of the world can jump into this fantastic app. So top story that I've got here is from the Wall Street Journal. What's the topic here? I'm not sure which topic this is, but here we go. Microsoft's board decided in 2020, last year, that Bill Gates should leave the Microsoft board as it probed claims that Bill Gates sought to initiate an affair with a Microsoft engineer 20 years ago. So the company's board, again, from the Wall Street Journal, the company's board members begin investigation stemming in 2019 into a woman's allegation of prior sexual relationship with Bill Gates. And I was in a room with some of you where I said exactly this, that I was in Seattle around that time, where I went up to visit a geek friend of mine who had moved up to the Seattle area. And you can't be in Seattle and not meet a geek who has some connection to Microsoft. But I actually had helped him move there in a moving van from San Diego. We drove up the West Coast. We're moving into his house because he's going to move in with his girlfriend who lives there. Her best friend apparently is this lady in this article. And they were talking all about it. That we were sitting in a jacuzzi in the backyard. And she's like, yeah, I'm dating Bill Gates. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? You are out of your goddamn mind, girl. He's married with kids and everything. She's like, yeah, I know, but
I remember you mentioned this
right?
a few weeks ago.
Correct.
Yeah, I was here.
I'm glad I have a witness to this.
I said,
I was here.
I heard that too.
We were here.
I thought Tyler's getting into the gossip network here, but he's got real data.
I told you guys she was actually super smart, like not crazy. Remember me saying this? Like,
Yes.
Yeah.
You said your friend called her up or something, right?
Yeah. They called her up and, she even said, do you want to verify this? And it wasn't like that. It was like, I was like, there's no way. She's like, yeah, it's my best friend. Like, I've known this girl since we were little kids and she's dating Bill Gates. I was like, there's no way. She's like, yeah, let me call her. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. And because they as best friends had been talking about it, as best friends are prone to doing, no doubt. And so anyway, it's in the New York Times now as well in the last few hours. Sources: long after his marriage, Bill Gates would pursue women at Microsoft, at times creating an uncomfortable workplace environment. And indeed, this lady that I'm referring to worked at Microsoft. So maybe she's one of many. I mean, who knows? But she's certainly one of the alleged affairs going back to 2000 that the Microsoft board itself is now investigating. And as such, Microsoft's board has decided that Gates should leave the board. And wow, there it is. I mean, I feel terrible, honestly, but in a weird way, my I feel glad that I wasn't rumor mongering at least.
He should leave the board. He should just leave the board.
Yeah,
it's just unacceptable when you
Just to add on that, Tyler, what I'm reading a little bit is that they were the probe didn't reach a conclusion, and Gates stepped down before the probe was completed. So
right.
I think there are like two narratives
Sure.
that are coming through.
Yeah. And there's a whole other. I mean, I don't want to get into rumors around Bill Gates. God knows there's enough rumors around Bill Gates on all kinds of fronts. Microchips and what have you. But there's rumors that and apparently reports that he took flights with what's the guy who,
Epstein.
Brian Epstein, or not Brian Epstein. That was the Beatles manager, Jeffrey Epstein. Sorry, wrong
Jeffrey Epstein.
Wrong Epstein. Crazy. But let's see where it all shakes out.
These are not rumors. I think these are actual photos.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I mean. I want to be as err on the side of caution with these things because of how many things get said about Bill Gates. I would prefer to err on the side of caution. So anyway,
Tyler, are you going to start making a Tyler show and make it like the big Oprah show where you're just going to go through these conversations?
Yeah.
It'd be kind of interesting.
Coming up next,
we could take Elon Musk in that one as well.
Coming up next week,
a
one-on-one with Bill Gates, Oprah style. Yeah. But that's the top. I mean, there's a bunch of much more interesting headlines, but that's the one that's people, due to the gossip mill nature of news in 2021, that's what a lot of people are talking about. You want to know my favorite headline? This one is just too good. So switching over to hacking for a second. Do you remember I made a prediction last week about hacking? That the dark side hacker platform would be used on some big company within the next month or maybe even week, and then hours later, minutes later, it went from the Irish health system got hacked, and then it was the Washington D.C. chief got hacked. And I said, I will bet a Bitcoin that somebody else is going to get hacked in the near future. Can someone?
Toshiba?
No, Toshiba happened in Paris like a month ago. That was before the prediction. But that's now reaching the news now because they were quiet about it. They didn't want to announce that they got hacked. But the actual hack happened a month ago. But a new hack has happened over the weekend. Anyone want to guess who it is? Going once, going twice. No, that would be truly unprecedented. And no, those hackers are not stupid enough to try that. I can assure you of that. No, the interesting hack is the big European insurance company, AXA, who said that they were not going to be reimbursing for ransom payments, is now being hacked and being held for ransom.
Oh, God.
So have they been provided with a buy one get one free offer?
I don't know if they're going to pay their own ransom insurance. Can an insurance company insure itself? That's the question.
Yep. I'm sure
they can actually.
Yeah.
Tyler, it's really interesting because last week I brought up a piece of news that came from Holland that they're looking at increasing their cybersecurity because of how much they rely on the services of Google, Amazon, because like I said, they're a big shipping country, and they're proactively in the newspapers here, they're increasing their attention to cybersecurity. So it was really, really telling because AXA is heavy here as well. So it's definitely interesting to see how the Dutch are like, nope, we're gonna start protecting everything because they tend to be quite strict with that. So they're now talking about it as well, how to protect from it, how to prevent some of this.
Yeah,
if possible.
Yeah, but the fact that when the pipeline was getting hacked and the Irish medical system was being hacked, and then AXA comes out and says, well, we're no longer going to be covering ransoms.
It's a bit arrogant.
Yeah.
It's a bit arrogant.
Well, the fact that they became a target now by doing that tells you all you need to know about how this is going to unfold in 2021 and 2022. Like, everyone is potentially a target, and that's what I was essentially predicting, is this is going to escalate and ramp up, and that's why you saw the White House make an executive order about it, and you're going to see all kinds of governments cracking down on making different policies and even outlawing the payment of ransoms. They're going to make it illegal for you to pay, which is then going to disincentivize the hackers from trying, because if you're trying to get a ransom from somebody who it's illegal for them to pay it, hopefully that will diminish some of the incentives and etc. But to stay tuned. We certainly have not seen the last of this. I just want to see on this article.
The
Yeah.
other funny thing about it
Yep.
is, I think from the last time I read some of these numbers, cybersecurity was one of their big growth businesses on their balance sheet. So it's just like, it's coming in for that company. It's like tread carefully because, on a number of frames, i.e. future earnings.
Yeah, on this one from the headline, it says that it was branches of the insurance giant based in Thailand, Malaysia, Hong Kong, and the Philippines have been struck by the ransomware cyber attack. Phew.
I have another cybersecurity news from Japan, but it's not related to ransomware.
Okay, go ahead.
There's some political implication though. Okay, Japan slashes out against alleged Chinese military cyber attacks. So usually a mundane affair, the weekly news conference by the National Public Safety Commission caused still recently among the global cybersecurity community after police chief Matsumoto officially identified China as responsible for a cyber attack on Japan. Since then, the National Police Agency has been deluged with inquiries from foreign governments and media organizations about the claim. So 2 days before the 22nd April news conference, the Tokyo Metropolitan Police Department filed a case against a Chinese system engineer who is also a member of CCP for taking part in cyber attacks that target the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, JAXA, and 200 other Japanese companies and research institutions between 2016 and 2017. So these are all, but they just pointed out is related to Chinese government.
Mm-hmm. I've got we can do a quick little pivot here to a new topic. There is a big event coming up on Tuesday about what's called Google I/O. It's Google's annual the biggest event they do each year, where they reveal all kinds of new stuff. And there was a leak, speaking of hacks, that just came out in the last few hours about what is going to happen at this event. And so Google's Android 12 redesign leaks with more theme support, new animations, and more, etc., yada, yada. I'm going to tweet this from the Tech News Around the World Twitter account, which you can find very easily at TNATW, which is a very clever shortening of Tech News Around the World, TNATW. And you can see the photos of what the upcoming Android 12 redesign looks like. It looks gorgeous, I have to say. Like maybe, I mean, it's even... The mock-ups here look even far cooler than your typical Apple device, in all fairness. And there's a link to a video all about the hack and the leak and everything that's in it, and everything that's at that is it's really beautiful design. The Android 12, they finally got a killer designer on board with that. It looks quite impressive indeed. And so the Android 12 is just one of the things that is expected at this upcoming event. They're also expecting updates around Google generally, Google Voice, Google Assistant, the new Google EarPods are very much expected, among more. And to that point, we are going to have a live room that happens at the same time as the live stream. And a perfect coincidence that it will happen immediately following Tech News Around the World on Tuesday, which is the 4 p.m. UK time, 8 a.m. Pacific time. We're going to go for 2 hours, and then it will run seamlessly into the keynote event for the Google annual keynote event. So if you just stay after the tech news, we'll just keep the room open and watch the live stream together, just similar as we did with the Apple keynote event a little while ago. So that'll be Tuesday morning for the West Coast, Tuesday afternoon for the Europeans. So do join us for that on May 18th, where we will enjoy the Google I/O annual keynote together. I want to pause there to see who's got something to share, because we've got politics to get into, and green tech, AI tech, med tech, crypto and fintech, China, India, Africa, VR, etc. And usually we have Dan go first, because I know it's getting close to your bedtime there, Dan. Any news happening on the green tech front?
I'll join you a little bit later. I'm
Okay.
doing some things with my dog right now.
Multitasking, as they call it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair
Yeah.
enough.
Then participated in our True Love for Techies Around the World
Any
on
any
Sunday. It was fun.
anyone have something they'd like to share with the class before I open it to the people in the audience? And I got plenty of headlines to go into. Maria, you got your mic open?
I do, but I don't know if the headline that I sent you the other day was very interesting
Go
about
ahead.
Twitter
Well,
and Twitter subscriptions.
yeah, it probably is. The problem I'm having with Twitter is I'm now getting
Too many.
hundreds of tweets. Cheryl alone sends me about 50 a day, so it's becomes
No,
quite
that's
difficult to
over-exaggerating.
manage all of them. But yeah, go ahead.
So Twitter is starting something called Twitter Blue, which is
Yes,
going to be a $2.99 a month subscription that
yes,
might be actually expanded to even a higher price point depending on how many features they want to be adding.
correct.
But basically, what they're saying is that they're gonna do a service that helps you kind of keep, collections of tweets, manage your tweets, and then somehow, use TweetDeck in a better way, and obviously that goes along with their super fan, only fan, super follow, whatever
Yeah,
that is they're trying to build out. So yeah, just another monetization layer they're adding
yep,
quite late actually, but I think it also has a lot to do with the fact that their marketplace is going to die
yep.
unless they build it off of something else,
Yeah.
not IDFA.
I want to read this headline because we have to give a shout out to my friend Jane, and this is fantastic. Jane is a friend of mine in Hong Kong, who notoriously is the person who finds all of these upcoming features and all of these social apps. And the headline says Twitter to call subscription service Twitter Blue charge $3 a month, a tiered service that will also let you make collections of favorite tweets. So now your bookmarks can be put into a more organized structure, which, by the way, I suggested that to the Twitter founders myself in 2007 over lunch when they were recruiting me to work at Twitter. And I thought, I'm going to want to save thousands and thousands of tweets, and I need a way to organize them other than throw them all in one bucket. And they all agreed, and here we are, Jesus, how many years later? And they're making it
14.
Yeah, 14 years later, they're now making it part of their new paid subscription features. And I even said that at the time. It's like, I wouldn't mind paying for that. So here we are. So you can find, and it says that this is all in the subtitle of this article. It says you can find them when you want to. Says tipster Jane Wong. And awesome that Jane is now being named, even in the subtitles of this article, getting proper credit, as she rarely does, for her work and findings. And she did discover this, as she does every day if you follow her on Twitter. Matter of fact, I will try to ping her in the room, although she notoriously is shy to join us in Clubhouse. But we chat.
I think
But
Marvin.
also, sorry, I just want to say that it's interesting that it took them so long because obviously collections have been a thing on Instagram forever. And so would be like, I don't know, favorite places to go on Airbnb, and that you could just put into different folders.
Yeah,
So it's fine. It's just
exactly.
funny that it
Yeah,
takes them so long.
and by the way, the design of it, because you can see it if you search for Twitter Blue, and the design of how to organize it is very elegant and very useful, kind of similar to Pocket, I would say, for those who know Pocket. And I think it makes Twitter vastly more useful, yeah, because you can start doing searches, and that's the other element of saving tweets into different buckets is you're going to now need to use Twitter in a more searchable way, the same way, similar way that people use Pinterest, where you go and find stuff and save them into buckets, and you can, like you said, for future vacations, of restaurants you want to go to or hotels you're considering, and save those into buckets, etc. I think it's great that they're finally doing this. One of the other really cool features that's included in this new $3 upgrade, kind of service, is that you'll be able to undo. You'll have an undo feature on tweets. So if you let out a tweet, that you decide you need to delete, you'll have a time that you set, very similar to Gmail, where you can set the amount of time that you're allowed to undo your sending of your Gmail, which, my God, I use that every day. And I would probably use it on Twitter as well if once they enable it. So what I want to do is a very quick poll to see how many people think they're going to pay an extra $3 a month for this Twitter subscription service. It says it's unclear when they will roll it out, but the company has tested features like undoing tweets, charged to use dashboard app TweetDeck, and super follows, which would let you follow a creator or publisher for a monthly subscription fee. There's also a scroll technology, which could offer Twitter users an ad-free tweet. Oh, ad-free as well. Okay. Twitter declined. So I guess the combined features are the ability to undo tweets that you wish you didn't send, although you can delete them and retweet them, I guess. The removing of ads,
and no ads,
the ability to put your tweets into collections, or any tweets that you find all across Twitter, and probably a better way to find tweets as well. Make their search experience a little better. Would people pay $2.99 a month for that? That's what I'm curious to find out, actually. So could we do a very quick poll? Apologies to people who might have their hands up at the moment. Raise your hand if you would pay $2.99 for an ad-free Twitter where you could organize your tweets into savable bookmarks and undo tweets. And of course, Poppy is the first person to raise her hand because she's a Twitter super user and recommends endless fantastic tweets for us that we share on the Twitter account. And we are up to a whopping 5 people. 6 and
no ads. Remember, no ads.
Yeah,
still
but
7.
Actually, from the gaming perspective, I can tell you that even though our games are mostly free and it costs only $2.99, again, same, to remove ads forever. The payer ratio to non-payers who prefer to have ads is, well, insane. So almost nobody wants to pay for an ad-free business. I think if anyone would pay for that subscription, it's for all the features, the management features, the content management and discovery, because it's a much bigger problem than ads.
Yeah, it's only 7 people that would do it. So to that point.
But Tyler,
yeah,
I'm sorry, this is LS, but
L.
I wanted to add a thing to that. I think if you look at the hierarchy, it's amazing to me because I won't even go with the politics of Trump or Elon Musk. But when you're talking about stocks and tweet, to undo something and to be grouped in a certain category, that's extremely, to me, and I think it'll unfold itself later, genius on Twitter's side. Because I think they're targeting, and I shouldn't disclose too much, but I'm just guessing. I'm for disclosure. I'm not even on Twitter. I think they're targeting a certain segment, a hierarchy segment, because once it becomes public, it's public. And so if you could undo it or you group with a certain thing.
I see what you mean.
Yeah. And the $3 is just for the lost leader. It'll be much higher at a certain, and you're talking about clustering. Like, who am I talking to? Like what Clubhouse is doing, what we're doing in this room of tech news. Who am I with? Who am I following? Who am I clustering with? That becomes invaluable. I'm just maybe disclosing too much for there. I just can see this because it's easy to me in AI. But yeah, that would be an interesting, profitable model, given look who tweets and who uses Twitter, and look at the top 10% to 20% influencers on Twitter, and then think about it from that reverse effort.
Yeah.
Another thing I would say to what you just said, LS, is that the future of Twitter might be that they will enable users to have personalized feeds per category, and then you can really cluster that information in users depending on what you're interested in. So like, I don't know, all of your stocks, all of your politics, all of your comedians, stuff like that. And so that it becomes easier to consume content, because the problem today is that there's so much content and it's such a mess that it just becomes overwhelming. And I think they need to build more tools for people to be able to manage it better.
I think they're just adding tools for creators to make money, right? This fits in right with that tip jar concept where they say, okay, you can use Twitter now and make money off of it also. It's not you just building a following or spreading your thoughts.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say, so I've been a member of Twitter or whatever since 2008, but I didn't use it at all, frankly, until very recently, and only because of the NFT community, because that's primarily where it's active. So obviously I want to find collectors, but I freaking hate it. And it's because there's so much stuff, and I don't follow that many people, and I have people getting upset with me why I don't follow them, but it's because I don't want that mess. I really, really, like, when I go and I have a feed of things, the things that I want to read are things related to technology for the most part, and a lot of people post a whole bunch of other stuff. I just don't have the bandwidth to read. So I don't mind paying a few bucks a month to be able to just, like, split everything and be like, okay, this is like the tech stuff that I really, really care about and want to read. And then, like, when I feel like all of the other random stuff about other random, weird stuff that's happening, like celebrities and stuff, like, then I'll go there. But really, like, I want to be able to, like, I want my eyeballs to see very specific things, and I try to curate my existence in a very specific way. So to me, that price point, so reasonable, I'm okay with that.
Just the heads up, Victoria, there's no feature yet that you have personalized feeds. It's all you can do is you'll be able to save tweets that you've gone through in this mess of a feed that you have right now into certain folders. So that's all they have for now. But maybe Tyler, you can recommend new features to the Twitter team.
Yeah, actually, Jane. Well, yeah, that was back in the day when Ev and Biz were still there mainly. But
hey, Tyler, can I just do a technical? Is the survey over now? Because I just want to make sure. People who've got their hand up, are you guys trying to come up or?
If you were participating in the poll, you can put your hands down, so that we can see who are the people who are trying to jump up separate from the poll. Yeah, good point.
Because I see Poppy wants to come up. I'd love to have her come up.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Marvin has a headline to share, I think.
Oh, Marvin, what's up?
There once was a man from Nantucket. The vineyard.
Can't hear you.
It sounds like the audio cut out.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry about that. A company called Vineyard got the permission over the weekend to create the largest wind farm off the coast of Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard in the United States. So this is a very big deal for the U.S. as they move farms.
There you go. Breaking news from the coast of Nantucket there. Thank you, Marvin. There's someone...
That's a cool place to visit, by the way. You can buy fish called scrod, and it's the only place where I've tried to hitchhike, and I got picked up in a beautiful Audi. Just a little bit of a personal story. I did have one other one, Tyler, if I may, on private equity. Barron's rushing to snap up British firms on the cheap.
Why is that?
Say more. Say more.
So
because I'm in this space, so tell me more.
Yeah, published on Saturday at noon by the Times newspaper. Ask any top city investment banker or lawyer who works on blockbuster deals for private equity firms how busy they are, and they will probably tell you the same thing. Business is booming.
They're buying up UK companies. Why are they buying up UK companies?
It's saying they're buying them up on the cheap.
And the price is down because why?
And Dave, this is LS, what kind of U.S. companies? Tech? What sectors, though? That's amazing to me, as well as with Cal,
I've only got the first 3 paragraphs of the article, unfortunately, because I don't subscribe to the Times.
I'll look it up. Okay, we get it.
Yeah. It must be the price earnings are just, well, the valuations, Cal, must be cheap for these private equity people. At least that's the call they're making, right? Because they're coming here to buy them up.
I think there's a lot of purchasing going on in anticipation that the value of the dollar might go down. So there's a lot of a scramble of people who have a lot of cash on their balance sheets to convert into hard assets.
Yeah, I think there's a buyout completion as well. 7&I Holdings over Speedway. It was completed over the week. I mean, there was a news over the weekend too.
Yep, there's thanks for that, Dave. There's a whole bunch of articles to get into. We were talking about the Google event that's coming up on Tuesday, which, by the way, now that we're at the bottom of the hour, an official warm welcome to everyone now that the room is getting up to its normal pace here. We have on Tuesday afternoon Europe time, Tuesday morning West Coast time is the annual Google event. And I talked about the Google leak that came out just a few hours ago and all that's expected at that event. But there's also an Apple event. The annual big Apple event is also coming up June 7th next month. So in a little less than a month, in a few weeks. And there's now been a big leak about what to expect at that event. And this leak is even much more impressive, I must say. And it's done by an old buddy of mine named Mr. Robert Scoble. And we had a little powwow about this in Twitter Spaces, where he's been hanging out almost around the clock lately, leading up to this event. And he did a really long blog post about everything that he expects to come at this upcoming annual Apple flagship event called WWDC, which I need the undo tweet button. I accidentally tweeted, made a mistake in my tweet. I need that pro feature already. It's only been 5 minutes. So
I retweeted it.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Well, no, you retweeted when I shared Robert's article. I'm just sharing his article again because it was a while ago. But basically, his article is really worth reading because he talks about what Apple has in store starting at this event in 3 weeks and what he is expecting. And he backs up everything that he's expecting with lots of details. Akil, did you read the article?
No. I'm going to read it.
You retweeted it without reading it. That's the problem, folks. In 2020, there you go, Akil. Now we know who's ruining the internets. We can blame Akil. No, but I definitely encourage everyone.
He's the only guy that admits it.
Yeah, no one else. It's not anybody else.
Give him a chance. He's only 24.
Nobody else does that. Akil.
No one. It's purely you're the only one, Akil. Clearly, but do read this article because the picture he paints of what Apple's cooking up is truly mind-blowing in a way that I've not had my mind blown in many months. And I'll just give you a taste. He's expecting essentially 13 things. The first of which is, he says Apple's working on, and he, by the way, lives in Silicon Valley near the Apple campus, has countless friends who works at Apple. He's quite a large investor in Apple and has been obsessed with Apple since around 2000. He's the first person to buy the first iPhone at the Palo Alto store. Just to give you some context, he's usually the first person in line at the store near the HQ. Every time there's a new device that gets released, he's a real. If there was anyone who epitomizes the word Apple fanboy, he would self-admittedly categorize as Apple's number one fanboy. So he's expecting Apple to announce many things, and here's some of them. A new real-time 3D map of the entire world. And this is a space I was not familiar with this, although Victoria certainly is. And it's this idea that the whole world can be put into a 3D model using your iPhone, no less. There's a special kind of camera on your phone that allows you to make a 3D image of anything, like your shoe or your anything sitting on the desk in front of you. You can make a 3D model of it using your phone now, right, Victoria? So, and people are uploading this endless millions of pieces of content every day is being uploaded to some websites, and they're building out a 3D world. And there's now people as believed that Apple is driving around in cars to make 3D models of all of the streets and the houses and et cetera, and et cetera, et cetera. And if you go to this article, Robert shares links to some of the popular sites where you can go see this stuff. And it's really super crazy impressive because you can look at in your own browser without a VR headset, the 3D version of all of this stuff in a browser. But this stuff really plays into the VR headsets, where once you put on a VR headset, you can engage with it in a 3D way. And you can walk around it in a 3D way. And it's all of these 3D cameras, which your iPhone now is, And by the way, he's saying that in addition to this new 3D map of the entire world, and including the whole internal of your own house, the internal of your own office, and he shows examples of these and links to these, he's expecting a whole new Siri search engine, which makes a lot of sense because Siri and Alexa and Google Assistant are now the new interfaces to search. And Google understands that, and that's why Google and Alexa are in such a heated battle. But Siri needs to get its ass in shape because you're going to start asking Siri as the interface for a lot of your search questions, and she better be able to give you good answers, or you're going to move over to Google's ecosystem. So he's saying Siri is going to have a new search engine-like feature, which will have a lot of really smart AIs, which will allow you to basically ask Siri very interesting, complex things. For example, how many people are checked in at this restaurant near my house right now? And they can look at real-time data based on how many iPhones are in that store, for example. Right? So you can see how this becomes much more powerful as Siri gets much more smarter due to AIs and etc. And by the way, I'm just really scratching the surface on some of this stuff around the 3D world. If you go to a website called Sketchfab, Sketch, SKETCH, Fab, FAB, you can see an endless library of millions of 3D scanned items and 3D created things that will exist in this new 3D universe that will be enabled by one of his next big predictions, which is what he's calling the holodeck, which is the physical device that we've been predicting here for over a month, that Apple will release a mixed reality VR, AR type device that you'll put on your head that will allow you to engage in this new 3D virtual universe filled with virtual items of all kinds, which you yourself can. By the way, this 3D universe that you walk around, you'll be able to have what he refers to as not only 2D floating screens everywhere that you can use as virtual computer monitors to do your work on, as big as you want, like a big IMAX screen, if you want, where you can have now your own IMAX screen floating around, and you can turn anything into a temporary screen. But also, you can you're in a virtual fantasy holodeck land at that point. Once you have an endless library of items that you can bring in, and your physical environment is scanned and turned into a virtualized environment that your friends can come join you in. Essentially, it gets very surreal and almost very sci-fi, science fiction.
Ready Player One.
Yeah, it's wild. So it's hard to even discuss it, but do check out Robert's article. He talks about the next level of noise cancellation and how that'll work. A new 3D Apple paradigm shift arrives, and that's the essence of his article, is that we are now entering a entirely new computing era of a 3D era, where Victoria's flashing because she knows, and the geeks in her community have been living in this world for the past few years, and we've been following it kind of closely here in the headlines in this room. And I have said many times, I feel like we are at that tipping point, and the indicators are there between Facebook and Apple and Microsoft and Google. They're all behaving in the ways that these companies do when something big is about to pop. So I
Tyler,
think
just to highlight how easy this is getting now.
If you allow me to interrupt.
Victoria is definitely the expert in the room. I've got no experience myself with VR and AR, but over last weekend, I picked it up and gave it a go through Unity, and within an hour I was 3D scanning objects, bringing them into my library that I put together, mapping out plane surfaces, and then placing objects with them. And that was under an hour from scratch with no previous knowledge. It's
Apple devices already have the LiDAR, by the way, just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly. That's the point.
Yeah, the current.
And I would just go ahead. And I would just add that there's two things, Tyler. 5G, which is rolling out more in the U.S. and Western countries, software side, and then Apple's M1 chip, which no one is focused on, which is hardwired in their new phones.
The article specifically references how important the M1 chip is to this whole development. In fact, the role that it plays.
If you allow me to interrupt.
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, I am software engineer working for. Anyhow, regarding just the M1 chip, the 3D model, I develop a lot of software for smart cities. It's easy, but the thing is the M1 chip, it's making very easy to iPhone users. If you're using Intel or AMD processor, it's hard and difficult to go around with the 3D modeling. But the M1 chip is very powerful and it's easy to run 3D model, even the whole world.
Yeah, that's precisely as Robert says in this article, and he makes it very clear that the M1 chip is sort of the unlock feature that makes this new 3D world very possible. And what it will do is, if you have, by the way, there's another chip called the U chip, and the U chip is ultra wideband, which connects your devices so that if you have one device with a camera that has the U chip, it will connect to your other device that has the M1 chip and allow that other device to do the processing necessary for all of this 3D modeling. And that's where it gets very interesting indeed, is this ultra wideband mesh network in your home between devices with the U chip and the M1 chips. And this is this ecosystem Apple's developing, and he believes it will create a real strong lock-in. So because you're going to want a device with an M1 chip, and some of your smaller devices will have these U chips and harness the power of the other devices in your house that have the M1 chips. So again, your small device that might not have the M1 chip can use its U chip to send the content over to the device with the M1 chip to do the processing for the 3D modeling and create these 3D environments. Yes, Shane?
Can I say something after Shane, please?
Sure.
And to add one more thing also, regarding this, the M1 chip and U chip, the thing with Apple nowadays is the intellectual properties. Nobody else, Google or any other company, can compete with this technology. The Apple have the intellectual properties, as you say, June 7 will be announced, but they own the intellectual property. It is true, whatever you said, and I'm already seeing it with my software development. So Apple, the news is shocked me really.
Yeah, it's a big. I appreciate your input and welcome to Tech News Around the World. And it's great to hear your validation of it, because the developers are the ones who see this stuff first from the back end, kind of behind the curtain. And the curtain reveal is this event that, as he's mentioning, that will happen on June 7th called WWDC. We will have the live stream companion room so we can watch it in real time, just like we are going to do the Google event on Tuesday and the Facebook F8 event on June 2nd. And Michelle might even join us for that, and maybe invite another Facebook friend who can help us enjoy that room as well. That'd be a lot of fun. But
Tyler, for the Google one, do we have a companion to kind of who's on the inside?
Yeah, exactly. Somebody from Google who might be able to join us. I'll try and dig up one. Yeah, good point.
Cool.
Yeah. Yep. So thank you, Moth, and welcome. And your comments are most appreciated. Somebody else wanted to comment.
We can do green now.
Yeah, let's do that. Let me find my new sound file. Here we go. Into GreenTech, Dan, take it away.
What's the sound? I didn't hear a sound.
I really wanted to talk about the XR though. Like I didn't get.
Let's pause for that then. Okay, so that we keep the content a little more tight. Go ahead. Was it Victoria? Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I've been letting everyone else talk.
Okay, go ahead.
I really
go
wanted
ahead.
to say something. As someone who's been engineering for these technologies for the last 6 years now, I'm really excited for this potential roadmap. Now, again, it hasn't all been announced. It's just like one dude that lives out here, and we all know the same people. But I do feel like many of what he's saying is very accurate, especially with number one, LiDAR cameras. Apple came out with the LiDAR iPad and the iPhone last year, so we've had about a year of being able to 3D scan objects using, Apple hardware. And number two, there's also ARKit, and ARKit has been used and refined over the last, at least 4 to 5 years when it comes to augmented reality. And they also have a tool called Reality Composer, which uses ARKit as a back end, and it has a really, really nice sleek front end, so you could create AR really quickly and really easily on Apple devices. So I really do feel like, at the very least, being able to live in this 3D phygital world, which is literally the exact thing that I've been designing for the last 5 years, it's very, very, very possible. I mean, I'm not the best engineer in the world. I'm self-taught in all of this stuff, and I've built all of this on my own, you know, with like no funding from like any company, no other person, just me, the internet, and just like hanging out with nerds. So if they do release this with, you know, all of this M1 chip hardware, oh man, we're going to be living in this like really awesome, like physical digital world. And I've already been selling, by the way, like phygital items for a while. And especially if we're able to like back this through like blockchain, oh my God, the future is just going to be absolutely insane. And I'm really, really excited for like everyone else to kind of like be doing the things that I've been doing for a while. And then not to sound like a dick, but then I'll be able to design the next reality on top of this one. So yeah, I'm just like really excited, and I can't wait to be able to have so many people be able to very cleanly and easily use all of my AR applications and experiences. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Victoria. Anyone on the VR, AR, MR front before we go to
just
GreenTech?
going to say the place. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, this is Christine, and I just have a comment. I went to Cedars-Sinai VR conference a few years ago, and I actually had a video with somebody who they have this, you know, these groups where you can actually meet virtually. You can design what you look like. You can interact. They can pull up screens so that you can explore, you know, medical devices and bring in speakers from the past to speak with you all in the headset. So I have a little video of it on a Facebook page, but I was going to put it on my Twitter in a little bit. But fascinating things where you're actually so immersed and you can actually interact with others in that space. So I'm looking forward to that world as well. So anyways, I'm Christine. That's my perspective.
Thanks, Christine. It is truly, for those who haven't had a chance to experience it, it is truly mind-blowing. Even the rudimentary experiences, you know, that we've had in the past few years, and the new stuff on the horizon is actually scary. Like, that's how profound of a change this whole 3D new side of computing will be. But the idea of how we're going to do education and training and medical, and it's just, it will likely be a bigger game changer than the smart. I mean, it is going to be a bigger game changer than the smartphone era whenever it happens, and equal to the game changing of the just pre and post computer era. I mean, it's fundamentally kind of that big. It's kind of, I think, Victoria, you know what I'm talking about. It's hard to emphasize just how profound of a shift this will be.
Yes.
The place where this. Oh, sorry. Go on, Victoria.
I just want to actually kind of make a small point. This is very data intensive. And as we recently heard or read through Nicholas's Twitter post about how eye tracking basically could tell the very minutia of a human being down to what they're feeling or whether or not they're on drugs. So we need to be very careful about how we handle this data, because now that we're going to be living in this three-dimensional, highly immersive world, that puts a lot of people, puts all of us in a vulnerable position. So I wanted to bring up the Extended Reality Safety Initiative, XRSI. And they're doing a whole lot of work in security and building frameworks for these things. And I actually am going to be working with them. Those of you who know, I'm building virtual-reality.city, which started out as just, you know, a little resume project and a project for metaverse.club, where people could come in and just like click on links in this like 3D VR immersive space. But it's actually grown. I have a lot of people that are interested in taking out real estate. I gave Tech News a building, which I'm actually modeling right now in Blender. And we're going to be building this backend that's very safety focused. And we want to make sure that our data is being properly handled. And I just wanted to bring that up, not to shill, but just to say that this is an awesome world we're going to be living in a world that I'm really, really, really excited that is happening. But we all really, really need to be cognizant about what these technologies entail and who is in charge of handling the technology and, more importantly, the data involved. Because it's important. Anyway, thank you for listening.
Yeah.
Thank you, Victoria. That was actually going to be my question. You've already partially answered. Who will own the data?
Yep. Well, to be determined.
Okay. Okay.
We don't. I have a question. If you.
Most.
I have a question regarding some technology. I cannot find it across the world. So since you mentioned AR, VR, MR, anybody knows about hologram?
The concept of a hologram, sure.
No, the hologram technology is like the AR, VR. So I'm here and you are there physically and using hologram.
Okay.
We can talk and speak using hologram. I cannot find technology yet.
Remote presence, yes.
Hologram, as you have the room.
As a full living hologram. I'm not aware of anyone offering that at the moment.
Maybe Victoria.
I'm sorry.
Do you know anyone that offers a full physical hologram experience?
Not. I mean, what do you mean by physical?
I take it back. I have seen there's an event because I produce events, and somebody pitched me this special device that you can put on stage at your events, and they have 5 studios around the world currently, and they plan to scale up to have like 20 and eventually 50 different studios around the world where speakers no longer need to fly to speak at events on stage, like Barack Obama, where you have this special imagine an event where you go to, like where you pay money to listen to really smart speakers on stage. And there's a big black curtain, behind the stage. And there's a special kind of a black round box on stage, and the hologram appears inside that box, but you don't really see the box because it's a black box with a black stage. All you see is the hologram on stage. This does exist.
Narendra Modi used it in 2014 to campaign across the country using that tech.
Yeah, a French politician also used it 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Talking about hologram, there's a Japanese guy who married a hologram in Japan.
Yeah, but to answer Mota's question, I will try and find the company that pitches this to. They pitch it to all of the event producers like myself, because basically I spend a lot of time and money trying to get Bill Gates to come to my event, and he's too busy. And I could say, Bill, there's a studio in Seattle that you could go to and appear via hologram at the event. So that's why they pitched this.
Tyler,
yes, go ahead, Sid.
This is Sid.
Hey.
Holograms, typical good quality holograms, require femtosecond lasers. Femtosecond lasers are extremely high powered, and that's probably the largest challenge to fit a small femtosecond laser, or a few of them, in a small box is a power problem still. So unless we come up with massive lithium-ion batteries that can power those femtosecond lasers, this is still going to be a fundamental challenge.
Yeah, it's very expensive technology to do the company that's pitching this to events, and the ones that presidents are using, and prime ministers. It's because the physical hardware, they charge you like $50,000 to have this at your event, but if it saves you the cost of getting better speakers, because good speakers cost $10,000 a piece often, or $50,000 a piece, and so this makes it easier to get better speakers to speak at your event via hologram. That's sort of the business pitch on that. But they do exist. I'll try and find you the link to it, Mo.
AI kind of makes them pointless as well, unfortunately.
I know the companies, but the problem, I didn't see technology developing on this field.
I'm sure it's being developed. It's just slow at the moment because it's still quite early. It'll, like Sid says, technologically it's very challenging on many fronts. But holograms are, that's still a little ways off.
Yeah, it's been presented to our king like 15 years ago. It's been presented here.
Yeah.
It's available, but the thing, no more developing like AR, VR, MR. We're seeing a lot of development in this field, but in holograms, still, as Said said, it's very expensive yet.
Of course, because essentially holograms are AR, VR without the glasses and the goggles. So of course it's gonna. You can either. It might be cheaper to buy everybody in the audience a headset now than to have them not have the headset and have it on stage, right? So I think the AR VR approach is going to, in the short term, is the better way to go. But let's move on because there's a lot of people sending in great headlines. Holly just sent in a link. Poppy rather found the article I was looking for, so I'm tweeting it from the Tech News Around the World Twitter account. So Moth, if you go to TNATW on Twitter, our Twitter account, you'll see a link to it. It's called faber-av.com, holoportal, which was used for Tupac concert at Coachella, for example.
I noted down. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks. And then I want to get back to Dan on the GreenTech. So let's move it over to GreenTech. Thanks for waiting, Dan.
Okay, it's got okay, I can barely hear that. Okay. Three things got for you. One is that John Kerry, our U.S. climate envoy, said, I guess it was earlier today, this time, that 50% of the emissions are going to come from technology that is not invented yet, according to the scientists he spoke to. And this got the climerati in a tizzy. Basically, going on Greta Thunberg and a whole bunch of other people just got active in saying how wrong that all is. And I guess we'll see. It also depends a little bit on your definitions, because if you think about it, solar, which is certainly one of the key technologies to reduce emissions, low-cost solar is, that was a future technology like 5 to 10 years ago, right? Solar's been around a long time, but it was always viewed as the high-cost solution, and now all of a sudden it's the low-cost solution. So there's a lot of continuing advancement. But anyway, that caused quite a stir. On Clubhouse today, there was a room with Miles O'Brien, a former CNN science reporter and now on PBS climate reporter, and Andy Revkin from the New York Times, and a whole bunch of other people talking about the role of journalism in fighting climate change. And I didn't hear much different. It hasn't worked for the last 30 years, and I guess then there was a room afterwards where we spoke about what we heard in the room before, and that was a quite animated room with a lot of discussion about, I've always argued that we should be very honest about things, which raises fear, and some people are against using fear, but I think being honest is the right approach. But that was a very interesting discussion. I'm just highlighting that. And then tomorrow, well, actually later today for most of you, 10 hours from now, at 10 a.m. Pacific time, on the Climate Chat Club, we're going to have Robert Howarth, who's the world's expert on methane leakage and fugitive emissions. And the discussion is about, is natural gas worse than coal for climate change? Because you remember, natural gas is supposed to be the clean fuel, the bridge to the future, the way, as we work towards fighting climate change, we go to that first. And the reason that it's argued that it's a bridge to the future is because it only gives out half as much CO2 per kilowatt hour that's generated inside the power plant versus coal. And that's true. It is about half the carbon intensity inside the power plant. But the problem is it's about 87 times more powerful than CO2 in warming the earth when it's released as methane. And there is leakage from the extraction, transportation, and all these other processes and end use. And Bob, who we'll have on tomorrow, did a paper 10 years ago showing that leakage was far more than what people thought. And when you consider the leakage plus the normal emissions from the power plant, it turns out that it actually has more impact on climate change than coal does. And that's a kind of mind-boggling thing considering what's going on. So anyway, that should be quite interesting for anyone who's interested in that subject tomorrow.
Yep,
or later today for most of you.
Cool. Thanks. You, Dan. We appreciate your green tech updates. I just found a really cool, let's turn it to AI for a second, because I just found this really cool AI article, thanks to Madeline, that I'm retweeting. about IBM built an AI capable of holding its own against humans in a debate, and not just humans at Starbucks. These are apparently like expert humans on expert topics. So the article headline is IBM built an AI capable of holding its own against humans in a debate. You can deep dive on it in the Twitter feed from Tech News Around the World. But basically, how they measure this is they essentially ask the audience to vote who won this debate, this human expert or the computer. And it's getting to a point now where they're saying, actually, the computer is winning the debate. So it's, quite interesting. It says, over the past few years, AI has gone from a niche topic to an exploding field. AI can improve audio and video quality, animate still images, and revive long dead people, etc. And identify you from an anal print. I don't want to know what an anal print is, but one thing it hasn't been able to do, argue effectively with the context of a formal debate. To overcome this problem, IBM created what they call Project Debater, an AI development program focused on exactly what it sounds like. Many AI projects, especially those focused on gaming, have a clear winner and a loser based on the evaluation of numerical criteria, such as pieces captured, lives lost, and the ratio between kills, etc. Effectively debating a human requires vastly different skill set. And in a recent paper in Nature, they talk about Project Debater and how it's continuing to make progress in debating humans and its relative score and the outcomes of that now as a result of they're talking about GPT-3, etc. And I think in the next, with GPT-3 now, it is essentially close to beating people in debates. And no doubt it will very soon vastly surpass. And this is the crazy thing to keep in mind is GPT-4, whenever it does happen, arguably will kill everybody in all debates, even the leading experts on topics. And that's where AI gets really crazy indeed. So do enjoy that article that I sent out.
That was brilliant, and especially given the debate that we had yesterday on the social credit score. Awesome.
That was fun. Yeah. And thank you for doing that, Dave. Dave did a really fantastic, spontaneous deep dive room here that many of us enjoyed on the merits of the pros and cons of a social credit system score, which notably China has. And this room was inspired by another previous room, which Dekai hosted with a gentleman who seemed to know almost too much about China's social credit score and their digital currency, and what happens when you combine those two technologies is truly fascinating. But we wanted
Didn't that guy speak for 2.5 hours?
3.5.
Like solid.
Yeah.
3.
Yeah.
Before anybody else spoke.
Correct. And
right?
Basically, I mean, he was doing Q&A, but the questions were notably short and tight, and the answers were notably verbose, but not wandering. I mean, he was just that filled with information. It was like talking to an encyclopedia. It wasn't fluff. There wasn't a lot of bluster. It was just he was filled with information. And so we just wanted to deep dive on the merits of AI as should countries consider implementing social credit systems. And I guess that's a poll we could do here, but we were arguing both sides of it, the pros and cons of what happens when you have this, and it's something to be mindful of. But there's much, as usual, when you go deep into the conversations, there's always far more than you anticipate when the conversations start. If I think we would agree on that.
Yeah. We had a lot of fun yesterday.
Yeah.
We had great participation on arguments for and against, and that was part 1. And we're going to tee it up for part 2 and expand it to be more the global application, not just inside China. But yeah, good fun.
Yeah. Whenever you do get ready to announce that event, and there's a lot of events, and there's click on the title of this room and you'll see what we're talking about. There's a lot of upcoming events. I'll just highlight for you very quickly. We've got coming up tomorrow, Heyman's going to do Tech News Canada, the 2nd edition, the first due to popular demand. The first one was much appreciated. And then we've got a special version of Tech News Around the World with the Google I/O annual flagship event live streaming. And then you've got Ben and Dr. Matt and Heyman and others doing the Med Tech News on Tuesday. And then Ben and Donna and Rajwinder and others doing the Wednesday blockchain news. And then the AI news on Thursday with Sahir and Jean-Francois and Sid and Dave and others. And then Victoria and others doing the metaverse room again for maybe the fourth or fifth time. And then a blockchain room, and it goes on and on. So it's
this week is looking on fire.
Yeah, go ahead and scroll through all of those, and you'll see it's a growing family of rooms. And it's because we, as a community of sincerely intellectually curious geeks, love these deep dive conversations that are born often from from these headlines, and they deserve hours of thought. So that's why we do these deep dive rooms, and we let the folks who have the expertise in those areas kind of lead those conversations, and it's a win-win. So please do follow the Tech News Club so that you get notified about those deep dive rooms.
I just added a special room on Sunday too.
Great. So I want to pause because we did the GreenTech, we did a bit of AI. Maybe we have some medtech and fintech and crypto in India, Africa, and VR. We did a little VR. But let me see if there's anyone on stage that wanted to share a headline from their part of the world, geographically or professionally. Going once, going twice.
Are you going to FinTech yet?
We have not yet, but there's people
James
in the audience with their hand ups. Yeah. So, but James didn't flash his mic. So we're going to let Tony jump up and Stella and Fresno. Welcome to the stage. And James, did you want to share a FinTech headline?
I didn't either, but I did want to say maybe we should do a FinTech news session at some point. So I'll maybe drop you a note about that.
Okay, well, lovely. I would look forward to that.
I can share FinTech news.
Okay, what's up, Cheryl?
Okay, this is from CoinDesk.
Mm-hmm.
In India, the bank has already started to crack down on crypto. The Indian trader says the Indian crypto traders are receiving account closure notes from banks and exchange. See issues with bank transfer. Yep.
Yeah, so this is 1 week old.
I was waiting for Monica, but she's not here. So maybe Akil.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a week old. So basically what's happening in the country is, so in 2018, they tried to pass a bill trying to ban all crypto and all sorts of crypto stuff where you can't buy and sell them. But the Supreme Court, the highest judiciary authority in India, kind of struck it down. So technically speaking, it's still legal for you to kind of buy crypto and sell crypto, but the banks are facing a major issue. So there is inter-regulation between the banks where they are pushing back, not the government, but the banks are pushing back on the crypto stuff.
Yeah. Well, this was predicted, was it not? I mean, we've talked about this exact point in this room that this was coming, right? And now it's here.
Yeah, Heyman brought up a news piece that day, and I remember saying I've been trying to buy Ethereum for the last 30 days, but my bank wasn't allowing it.
Oh, that's right. You did say that. Yeah. But here it is, and it's if you follow this newsroom every day, we often are a week ahead of kind of everybody else because of the people in the room are on the ground kind of telling us what's exactly happening, as Akil did. He said, I'm trying to buy crypto and I can't. And now here we are a week later and the press is finally catching up and saying, hey, India's cracking down on crypto. Yeah, well, no shit. Hang out in the tech newsroom and you'll hear from people on the ground telling us what's happening.
And then we've just, Vijay's just joined us. If you look, he's a payments guy in India as well. Just joined us.
Welcome.
Hey, folks.
Hey, Vijay. Any news going on in India?
The only news is that you cannot buy crypto anymore.
Right. Yep. That's the headline.
He sounded disappointed.
Yeah. It's confirmed. Double truth. You don't need to worry if that's fake news. And Stella, is this the same Stella but with a whole new image? Or is it a different Stella? No, different Stella, different bio. Welcome, Stella.
Well, this is the Stella from Career Coffee.
Stella J.
Stella J. Are you there? Hello, hello, Stella. Are you here, Stella?
Stella J.
So Tyler,
yes.
On the flip side of what's happening in India,
Yeah.
in Southeast Asia, there was the first. The headline reads ZipMex to facilitate first Southeast Asian luxury condo purchase with cryptocurrency.
Oh, wow.
So there's a high-end condo
That's
going
nice.
up in the Tonglo neighborhood of Bangkok.
Yep.
And so ZipMex is, it's facilitating that so that people can, get approved and buy their units within a day as opposed to within a period of days.
Interesting.
So it'll be really interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, interesting.
Hey Tyler.
Yes, I
was going to add to what Lakeisha was just stating and what Akil was asking about fetching as Ethereum. There was something that came up that was very interesting in the room this weekend that I was doing just about understanding crypto wallets, because there is a bank, and this is where the confusion comes in. James is really excellent with fintech, and this is something interesting because in 2017, an online banking company opened up Revolut, and I know James probably knows it being in the MasterCard space. And basically they took on the Visa. They took on the Visa logo back then in 17 because Visa was a little bit more cutting edge when it came to crypto in terms of kind of just jumping on board with it. And of course, Visa, MasterCard probably tend to compete. So I'll just leave it at that. But what's interesting is that many of what you see now, the on-ramp, as Ben said eloquently yesterday, the on-ramps is usually like going to a peer-to-peer network to get Bitcoin or going to an exchange and going through the KYC AML process and being able to buy it there, right? But what Revolut did, which was very, very cutting edge back in 17, is it was one of the first online banking apps of its type, and it allowed people to enter into the crypto space through a fiat on-ramp, which was KYC AML ready, because it would only allow the entry, not the exit. That sounds kind of weird, but it would only allow the entry, not the exit, which means if I had $100 and I bought Bitcoin in 2017 and I wanted to take it and move it to a hard wallet, I wouldn't be able to do that. It only had the one entry point. And the unique part about Revolut is that they started in England. That's where they started. That's where they were. And then they continued to just let people in by drips. And then I think it was about last year, a year and a half ago, they entered into the US. And now Revolut in the United States is FDIC insured up to $250,000. So the long and short of it is that banks amongst themselves will now have to sort out how they're going to work this out, because the consumers have already spoken. And as Lakeisha's demonstrating, the consumers have already spoken and they want to use crypto. They want to be able to use it. Even a couple of the questions that came up, even by Heyman himself, he's like, well, what if I have that debit card? Can I use my crypto if I have it on that debit of Revolut? And the answer to his question was yes, because they made it that I literally could have $100 in Bitcoin on my Revolut card, and I could go to a cafe in Belgium and purchase a coffee and a croissant, and it would deduct it from my Bitcoin balance, which was really interesting. And so in essence, I was paying in Satoshis, which is super fascinating that this has already been ongoing for 4 years. And I think just the countries are now seeing that they can't stop their consumers from what they want, but they can now jockey for position on which banks or which credit cards are going to be the ones to jump on it and do it even more phenomenal, like MasterCard or Visa or any of these others. So it's a very interesting place we're at right now, because now it's becoming an early adopter, moving into that stage. It's here. What do we need to do to navigate KYC, AML? How do we now get people to our bank? And I think that's going to be the next competitive battle. How do we get the consumer to
on that point, I'm curious from Vijay or Monica or anyone in India,
here.
right? Oh yeah, so in India
Welcome,
right now. Sorry,
Monica.
I just yeah. So in India, my question is to that point on the other side of that. Is Revolut even there, or is it completely like you can't do anything? Is that so you can? What my point is, governments can stop you, right? Like if or maybe they can't. So what do you guys say? What are you seeing?
Cal, I can probably jump in, not on India, but on sort of
payments in general. So this is something we're working on as well. So one of the things that I may mention that's quite interesting is before it was sort of a tangential way for credit card processors to allow you to buy cryptocurrency. So in the credit card world, there's this concept called a merchant category code. It's a 4-digit code that's an ISO standard code. And I think it was not until 2018 or 19 that the asset class digital assets came out, which is 6051. So when you use your credit card, every single vendor you go to, they have their own unique sort of 4-digit MCC. So restaurants, hotels, everyone has it. And then it wasn't until the digital asset came out with the MCC 6051 that this became much more convenient, meaning that it's much harder for your clients to do a chargeback on the credit card because you're no longer providing them a sort of a tangential or sort of a blurry MCC. It's actually for digital assets. So a lot of this is regulated by your acquirer, your credit card acquirer, which are oftentimes banks, but doesn't have to be. So if you're processing through I guess a non-Indian acquirer, they can technically allow you to buy crypto as long as the acquirer is willing to take on that risk in processing your credit card transactions.
I don't think I tried on the Indian platforms to buy Ethereum. Then I went and made a MetaMask account and I tried to do an international transaction to my credit card and debit card, but that also didn't go through. Like you go through all the steps, you get your OTP.
So
Yeah,
that means the Indian, I guess, your bank does not allow a transaction that's a 6051.
yeah, I've tried with 3 different banks, but it doesn't seem to happen.
Right. So what I'm saying is your bank on your side, the Indian side, have completely blocked that. If they see that the vendor charging you is using a 6051 or anything maybe related, they probably have a whole slew of items that they won't allow. And then they probably put the 6051 MCC as part of something that will not be processed.
Very cool. There's a whole bunch
Tyler,
of...
if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I can actually just add a little more info here. So, Akhil, on your MetaMask, if you're using the Chrome browser and you're trying to add funds to it via the Wire network or maybe Apple Pay, that will not work in India. There's a small hack which you can do. You can download the MetaMask app on your mobile phone, and through the Transact on-ramp, off-ramp channel, you can actually do an NEFT or an IMPS to the virtual account that MetaMask gives you. Okay, it will be in your name. You'll have to do a little bit of KYC, and that money will land in the MetaMask in the form of Ethereum. That's still
Thank
working.
you so much. I wish I met you 30 days ago.
Yeah, you can tip him now on Clubhouse, I think, if he's based in
Yes,
the US.
Monica, you want to
Not
speak?
available internationally yet, Tyler.
Right.
That's the biggest challenge.
Yeah,
Akhil, sorry,
Yeah,
Akhil, if you feel so
Monica.
strongly, sorry.
Hey guys, thank you. Cheryl, thank you. Sorry I was late, but Cal, I wanted to answer your question on Revolut. So Revolut in India hasn't launched, but yes, they have hired a female Indian executive to actually launch their operations, and this will be happening soon. They had actually advertised for their Indian operation setup, including technology center, last year, and they have hired engineers. But there was some unfortunate news that also came out, and this is not in the public domain. But the engineers were actually put on hold, and the recruiting efforts were stopped because of the COVID situation. So I'm fairly certain that Revolut will definitely launch this year. But you have to understand that everything that happens in India, they will have to comply with what a bank means in as per the central bank in India. They cannot take on the word bank as they would be able to do in other countries. So it's a very exciting place. But I don't know what proposition they would bring here and how they would be able to operate under the licenses.
Monica, I have one question for you. Can these guys do something like how Paytm did with their banking license, like a mini bank or a small bank sort of a thing, where they
No,
don't need
Akhil.
to?
The the payment bank licenses have not been released after the 13 that were given out somewhere in 2016. In fact, out of the 13, 7 of them 7 or 8 of them have already given up their licenses, so there are only 4 remaining. I actually think that Revolut will probably try to partner with another friendly bank, which is a licensee bank in the country, and try to take on the core bank operations via that bank, and actually become like the UI customer experience layer. I could be absolutely wrong. I am not their strategy person, but I don't see how else this would be happening. And again, I'm speaking from experience of other neobanks launching in India right now, who've actually partnered with a bank at the back end. I know this sounds counterintuitive though.
Monica, has N26 launched in India yet?
Not yet, Amy.
Okay, thank you.
So, Monica, I have a question for you quickly. What do you think? I know you mentioned, gave the disclaimer of the strategy position, but is Geo, given their new 5G network, a potential partner for Revolut? So, someone who's not in the banking space would jump in with something disruptive like Revolut?
Sid, that's a great question. I would love to be a fly on the wall when these conversations are happening. Geo has the Geo Payments Bank license, and in fact, they're doing some decent work there. And with the Facebook and Google investment in them, I actually think that they will be trying to partner and digitize the merchant supply chain ecosystem. So probably consumer ecosystem is not really their mainstay, but we don't really know. I actually think that if I were Revolut, and I hope there's nobody else from Revolut here, I would actually go with a partner bank in Bombay, the top 10, but slightly smaller than the large 5.
Thanks, Monica. Thanks a lot.
Monica, I have another question for you that's related to this space. What have you heard on the ground in India regarding Diem? Which is Facebook.
Diem, the Facebook coin, right?
Yeah, no, it's their exchange. Diem is going to compete directly with Gemini. DIEM, it's going to compete directly with Gemini. But what you just said, Monica, about Geo, you just left my strategy head thinking, because that's also really a little bit potentially scary. Because if they're going to launch their Diem, and the rumor is they're going to do it at the shareholder meeting for Facebook at the end of the month, but I can't confirm that. I've got a friend who's a lawyer at Facebook here, but I know that there's some grumblings that there's a little bit of some competitive air between Gemini Exchange and Facebook. So I'm wondering if he would use this strategy, and this is just a thought in my head. Have you heard anything about Diem or any of that exchange, any of Facebook's coin coming out or in India? Like, have you heard any rumors about that or any sort of whispers?
No, Amy, none at all. And if anybody is in Facebook or WhatsApp, please stay away from that as well. It's already...
I know. That's why, exactly, Monica. That's why I'm asking, because the concern I have is the impact of them going.
Absolutely. Amy, actually, WhatsApp Pay has launched, so I think these guys will stay away from anything related to controversy at the moment.
There was Michelle, who joins us from Facebook, mentioned that they're testing it in Israel, and it looks like they have ambitions to go into Africa before they go into India with that.
But Tyler, before we move on, can we do a shout out for Monica, because she runs very good rooms on Clubhouse too? So you guys would like to follow her? Huh? Who is that?
This guy, this idiot named Hamza on stage, who's embarrassing his country. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tyler, please do a shout out for Monica.
Yeah.
Will shut up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, please follow Monica. She runs very good rooms on Clubhouse. Please follow her and her club. Thank you.
Yep.
Hey, Tyler, I thought I wanted to, just with the troll that came in, I think it's wise to share one of the updates from the town hall yesterday that was super important. I know you guys were all in the Justin room, which was amazing. Notice how I called it the Justin room.
Yep.
There's something that they've added to the mods, which is going to be the possibility to DM them and directly, which is interesting because I just kind of got a little mini freak out with all the women on the app and everything. It could potentially make it easy for trolls or whatever to reach out to mods directly now, because they're going to have a direct messaging feature. So, I mean, and it was a 50-50 split on whether that was good or not in the aftermath of the announcement. So I just thought it was really interesting that's going to come up, because they're going to launch so many more countries coming in, and I'm just envisioning what the safety and protocols are going to be going forward when more people come in.
Yep. It's going to, as you just saw, I've been predicting this for 4 months now, is when Android opens up, you're going to get a lot more behaviors. Let me paint
Tyler, sorry to cut you off, but this is fascinating because, we're doing tech news around the world, right? And we want to democratize news. But can you imagine when they open up Russia?
Russia's quite open already. Russia's one of the most active communities in Clubhouse.
But in terms of Android?
I mean, I get pinged into Russian rooms every day. They're pretty active.
Yeah, they're the most. Russia and Thailand are the two most active in all of Clubhouse.
But is their device an iPhone or is their device the Android?
iPhone until tomorrow. It launches in Russia and on Android.
That's what I was going to try and say in terms of nefarious dealings and all that fake news that comes out. I'm wondering what rooms will be coming with the site of Android users from Russia.
The bigger concern with regard to Russia is the intelligence community tagging everybody who's speaking negatively and then going to their homes and arresting them from Clubhouse.
Would that happen?
Wait, how do they know their address?
Of course that is going to happen. You can laugh.
Keel, you've been listening to this room for like
Cheryl,
2 months.
we will see if you laugh when I read the headline next week.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Kal, you were saying something?
No, all I was saying is that the last 2 months, they know your address. Like, don't worry about it.
They have
your address.
They'll get your IP address.
No, Carl's referring to a thing where if you Google my name, my address pops up.
Oh, I'll just say I love pudding.
You love pudding?
Putin.
Yeah, I love pudding, Japanese pudding.
We might need a ding ding now.
Yeah.
We might need your sound, Tyler.
Yeah. The boxing bell sound. So I've got plenty of other headlines to share here, kind of on this topic of, Russia and Clubhouse. There's Huawei. Somebody shared this on Twitter. My apologies for I just retweeted it, whoever shared it, but here's the article. You can see it from our Twitter account. It says Huawei's ability to eavesdrop on Dutch mobile users is a wake-up call for the telecoms industry. Chinese technology provider Huawei was recently accused of being able to monitor all calls made using Dutch mobile operator KPN. The revelations are from a secret report made by consultancy firm Capgemini, which is one of my big sponsors in Sweden. They are based in Paris. They're one of the largest companies in the world. In fact, they employ 350,000 people. So Capgemini is one of the big technology consulting firms who made this report, which KPN, the Dutch telecom company, commissioned. Clearly, they hired Capgemini to evaluate the risks of working with Huawei infrastructure. And now they know that as has been widely rumored and worried about, and as the America had been warning all of its allies about, that in fact Huawei is able to tap into the private messages and calls of the Dutch citizens who are using the Huawei 5G network. So while the full report on the issue has not been made public, journalists reporting on the story have outlined specific concerns that Huawei personnel in the Netherlands and China had access to security essential parts of the KPN's network, including the call data of millions of Dutch citizens. And the lack of records meant KPN couldn't establish how often this had happened. Both KPN and Huawei have denied any impropriety, though in the years since the report, Huawei has increasingly found itself labeled a high-risk vendor for telecom companies to work with, including by the UK's National Cyber